Hello, my name is Shingo Hane. It is great to meet you. Today, I'm going to talk about building trust in supply chains. I'm sure you are all shocked by the SolarWinds hacking problem revealed at the end of last year. It has caught the attention of many people because of the extent of damage. Today, I'm going to talk about the result of the research and development on supply chain security and trust, using an attack on SolarWinds supply chain as an example. Attacks on the supply chains are not something new. A few years ago, a number of data falsification cases surfaced at the development and production site of several well-trusted Japanese companies, which made headlines. There was also a report, suspicion of the small chips being illegally inserted into server motherboard in the upstream stage of the supply chain in order to extract data. Since then, figuring out how to protect supply chains from illegal actions and attacks has become a pressing issue. And we have been researching what we can do to make supply chains secure and trustworthy. We will not establish an approach to protect against individual illegal actions and attacks. Instead, we will create framework where organizations in the supply chain will use evidence to demonstrate that the supply process of products and services is consistently secure and trustworthy, and allow clients to confirm it. We have received significant support from the state for this activity. As a leader, I have worked on it together with several companies. I'm going to talk about this activity today, now that it is established, and because I believe that we should share the results with a wider audience. We will work on it together with public research organizations. Dr. Yamada from AIST is going to share the detail with you. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Yamada.
Thank you very much, Hane-san. I'm going to show examples of incidents that can damage trust, proposed method to overcome this problem, and the activities that we plan to conduct going forward. What happened to SolarWinds was a profoundly serious incident. When updating a software called Orion, the software was distributed with malware inside. The attacker has sneaked in a malware called Sunspot in the software build process. And Sunspot, in turn, downloaded a malware called Sunburst, which entered Orion. In this case, the software was falsified, but the falsification was not detected by the change management nor the design and code reviews. As a result, confidential information of countless organizations was collected by the malware. This is a security incident caused by an attack of the supply chain. But let us take a broader look at incidents that affected the trustworthiness of supply chains. In the first case, a computer system at a semiconductor manufacturer's plant in Asia was infected by ransomware. It happened because the malware contaminated software was installed without checking for viruses, which led to over 10,000 Windows PCs on the internal network being infected. By neglecting just this one step of checking for viruses, the company's sales in the third quarters of 2018 were said to have dropped by about 3% because the incident delayed shipments and incurred costs for countermeasures. When Bloomberg announced that one country had tampered with server computers of 30 US companies, according to Bloomberg, super small chips for attacking were sneaked into the motherboard of one of the world's largest server motherboard suppliers during an outsourced production process. As a result, a backdoor was opened in the running OS and confidential information was leaked. The third case involved flawed inspection in Japan for industrial rubber products using tankers and other things. Even though the company had agreed with the customer to randomly inspect 1 out of 5 products, the company only checked 1 out of 10 or 20. In the press release, the company blamed personal negligence by the inspecting officer, low awareness of compliance with rules, and insufficient management and supervision, among others. If one of the products used for tankers turned out to be defective, it could have caused a catastrophic accident.
Thank you. It looks as if issues creating supply chains have occurred in high numbers. But how are we to understand the trust in this context that you are talked about?
Right. Let us have a deeper look into trust. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, it is assured reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something. International standard ISO IEC 25010, Systems and Software Quality Models, define trust as degree to which a user or other stakeholder has confidence that a product or system will behave as intended. Customers implicitly trust the products and pay the corresponding value for them. However, we may have reached a point where we need to reevaluate that implicit assumption. How do a supplier and an acquirer trust each other? An acquirer has certain expectation and criteria on trust regarding the products and services they have ordered. To meet the acquirer's expectations, the supplier develops trustworthiness for their products and services. The International Standard Organization, ISO/IEC JDC1-WG13, defines trustworthiness as ability to meet stakeholder expectations in a demonstrable, verifiable, and measurable way. Upon receiving the products and services, the acquirer judges whether the products and services have fulfilled the expectations and expected criteria. If they do, trust is formed.
Thank you. Indeed, it looks as if various ways to look at trust are being discussed. Going forward, how are we to develop this trust?
Yes, let us think about that. Products need to be trustworthy to be trusted. For trustworthiness to meet stakeholders' expectations in a demonstrable, verifiable, and measurable way, as defined in the previous slide, suppliers need to make organizational efforts. The efforts are then documented and becomes the organization rules and requirements. Now, let us take a closer look at SolarWinds incident from that viewpoint. First, attackers are no longer attacking user environments only. They are attacking suppliers' development environments too. If they successfully attack suppliers, the damage will spread to acquirers in seconds. In this particular incident, the development environment was falsified to include malware. The company needed to detect it, but failed to do so, suggesting that the company did not have sufficient rules. Let us take a deeper look at the 4 incidents from the point of view of company rules. This table shows where the incident occurred and by whom in relation to the company rules. Incidents occur not just during the production process, but during the testing process as well. They can come from external attackers as well as employees. In some cases, a company rules are not thorough enough, and sometimes they are broken deliberately or by accident. These analyses suggest that incidents can happen during any process. When we look at the relationship between incidents and company rules, we identify whether there is any flaw in the rules or whether the rules were broken deliberately or by accident. The problems may not always occur at the company that caused the problem either. To prevent these incidents, it is vital that we comply with company rules. This diagram shows an issue that arises in the upstream stage can create problems downstream.
Thank you for the outline. Could you tell us about the detail of our approach a bit more?
Yes, I'm going to explain our approach for building trust. First, I'm going to explain about the risks associated with supply chain trust. If a company makes a product with a component from a supplier, the component may be held liable for the incident caused by that component. The closer you are to the end of the supply chain, the more serious the impact will be if liability becomes an issue or problems occur, which creates a business risk. To that end, the risk of trust in the supply chain cannot be resolved by just one company alone. The risk can be minimized only through the joint efforts of all companies involved. I'm going to explain the basic approach for building trust. As I have explained, following company rules is vital for developing trust. Therefore, if you track whether company rules have been followed, you can track trust. When placing an order, the acquirer needs to make explicit requests regarding trust. The supplier demonstrates with evidence that it meets those requests and provides products and services in compliance with company rules. By having this relationship spread throughout the supply chain, trust for the whole supply chain can be built. Let me explain with a diagram. Acquirer B places an order and increases requirements for trustworthiness. When delivering products and services, supplier A presents evidence that it has followed company rules. This leads to the building of trust between the two companies. By connecting all companies in the supply chain in this way, trust for the whole supply chain can be established. A cyber-physical space is the best environment for building trust. Tasks performed in the physical space can be collected with sensors and digitized. Using that data, companies can check and record whether tasks have been performed in compliance with their company rules. If rules are not adequate, immediate measures can be taken in the cyberspace. Requests about trustworthiness, evidence that the requests have been satisfied, and the request results can all be automatically saved in the cyberspace. Trustworthiness in the cyber-physical space creates a new paradigm for trust, reduces incidents, and eventually reduces the total cost for the society. Let us look back at what I've talked about using this diagram. Tasks in the physical space can be modeled in the cyberspace by task group, including the information about the relationship between the task groups and the details of the rules. Sensors can log the tasks for each task group, which can be compared with the rules within the models to check whether the rules have been followed.
How exactly do you check that?
After checking whether company rules have been followed, the result is saved as digital evidence. In principle, this digital evidence will not be disclosed. The digital evidence is compiled to create a certificate that indicates trustworthiness of the manufacturing process, etc., and is stored in a trust store. Let me explain in a diagram. Suppose there is a supply chain as shown in the top right. Company A manufactures product A. Digital evidence is generated and certificate is stored in the trust store. The same happens for companies B, C, and D. But if the products are interrelated, links will be created to connect their certificates within the trust store. Users can make inquiries to the trust store about the trustworthiness of various products and receive the result in the form of certificates.
What are the effects of this method?
First, this will make trustworthiness more transparent. The acquirer's request to the supplier will be explicitly presented, and the fact that the request has been fulfilled will be explicitly expressed in the certificate. Product trustworthiness will be visible not just to the acquirer, but to associates too. As a result, trustworthiness will become a way to differentiate products more than ever.
Could the method to develop trustworthiness have prevented the SolarWinds incident?
It could have alleviated the problem. Best practice in change management, development review, and security are vital in software development. This approach checks whether the best practice have been performed according to company rules. The acquirer can also see the results. Using this method, the acquirer can explicitly request for integrity and checks whether the request has been satisfied. Then, how can we apply this concept? First, know that protecting your company's product means protecting your company. To do that, you must clarify core value of the product. Have you done everything you could to protect that value? Made the actions you have taken to protect the product value visible. If you use the approach for the method to build trust, you can track the evidence of trustworthiness.
Could you explain the activities that are in the pipeline?
Yes, I'm going to talk about that. How will this method change trust? When placing and receiving product orders, explicit requests for trustworthiness and certificates that serve as answers to those requests will become a communication tool for companies that attach great significance to trustworthiness. If explicit requests for trustworthiness are presented in an e-marketplace, suppliers may be able to find new clients by evaluating whether their products match the acquirer's requests. Acquirers can check certificates in the trust store and identify suppliers who satisfy the level of trustworthiness they seek. But before that happens, interoperability needs to be established. For which international standardization must happen first. As the first step, we have launched an activity in IIC's Trustworthiness Task Group. The results will be released soon as the Trustworthiness Framework Foundations. The next step to take is international standardization with ISO and IEC. Lastly, let me show you a video on the method to build trust.
In the supply chains of the Society 5.0 era, trust underpins the interconnections between companies and organizations. Let's introduce our technologies that will create safe and secure supply chains connected by trust. This shows a factory assembly line. To ensure all products to be safe and reliable, firstly, the right model for the value creation process needs to be established for the process of producing products. The VCP notation and its use can make the VCP model by defining the production process and its standards. Secondly, collecting data from each implemented process and comparing it to the VCP model from 6 points of view enables conformance validation. The data used in this process and the verification results are saved as digital evidence. The evidence assures the product's reliability that causes the product to be trusted. Moreover, based on this trust, certificates are created with the common format. Organizations add certificates to Trust Store, so that shows their connections to be trusted. As these interconnections spread wider and wider, everyone will be able to evaluate reliability of the product supply chain entirely. In this way, trust constructs the trust chain by underpinning the entire supply chain, including consumers. By using secure data tracking technology that limits authorized viewers on interconnection of certificates, companies and organizations can use safely and protect sensitive information. These technologies and their combination implement the safe and secure supply chain. Our technologies are a key piece to support society connected by trust.
Thank you very much for your kind attention.